Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Good Morning Soul. And here's something that I know, everyone has probably gone through it maybe at least once. But sometimes, with our shows, with our movies, with our games, we get really passionate about it. And some of us, let's say you're, a fanatic about something. Let's say you're, a Harry Potter fanatic. And then, the people close to you, you'll be like, hey, watch fucking Harry Potter with me. Or, try to get into Harry Potter. And we've seen, I don't know how many times it's, the other people who are into, my similar things. It's, our friendship or maybe our, relationship has grown for whatever that reason. My brother, we're both obsessed with Dragon Ball. And it's, every time, and wrestling, too. And it's every time we see each other, we gotta at least cover the bases on whatever the fuck is going on in Dragon Ball and in wrestling. Well, Dragon Ball is over by the time you're watching this. It's just sad. But yeah, going back to what I said earlier. So it's kind of a part of us are obsessed with these things. So we try to get other people into these things. And for some of us, for those fanatics, it's this thing is a part of me. My day-to-day operations include this. There was a point in my life where Dragon Ball literally was on my screen or whatever daily. For a while. So it was Dragon Ball was a part of me. In that way for a while. So it's obviously I'm going to try to get other people into that. But it's let's talk, let's say I had this best friend who I tried to get into Dragon Ball, even though I never had that. But, it's Dragon Ball is just Dragon Ball Z is a 300 episode anime. Which, that right there, anime. Do you know how hard it is to get people into anime? I, as a joke, tried to, persuade my mom into, anime. Scrolling through Netflix, she'd be like, oh, so what are these? I'd be like, okay, let's do this. I was like, they are Japanese cartoons. They're often, more interesting, obscure and dynamic, story than, your, normal shows. And since she's like, they're cartoons, I was like, kind of. They are much more adult and much more, I didn't want to use the word edgy. They're meant for a more mature audience, teenagers a lot of the time. There's also a lot of adult stories. There's rarely that many shows that I've seen that actually feature children. And then she was like, huh, continue scrolling. So that right there is kind of just she had no good reason to not watch that anime compared to all the other bullshit that she would watch. Sorry, mom, but it's no good reason. But it's she's not gonna get into that because of the face value thing. She doesn't affiliate herself with weird. She doesn't affiliate herself with unique stories. These are things that well, even watching shit in general. But even my brother, I'll try to get him into anime. The only one I was able to ever get him into was Death Note. But I've tried to get him into shows like Erased. I played an episode of Yuri on Ice for him, which he didn't like that at all. I tried, now that I think of it, I really shouldn't have showed him that because it's that's what I'm saying. With anime, that's a great example because anime literally is just half of the reason people get into anime is because it's interesting. It's different. The stories are different. What are the animes I'm watching right now? I'm watching an anime about a universe where teenagers are too obsessed with the internet, so they put them in a boot camp that's so extreme it might as well be a concentration camp. Never am I going to see a movie about that. Never am I going to play a video game about that. Dragon Ball, which features epic fighters doing incredible things for whatever reason is going on at that point in time. and it's like this epic saga that lasts hundreds and hundreds of episodes. I'm not gonna get that anywhere else, and that's why like half of the reasons I'm into anime. Like film is like, sure, there's like so many amazing films, and there's actually, you know, if you look at indie films and like, you know, there's like 500 movies that come out a year, and if anything, like half of them are like actually unique ideas. But it's like half the movies that day-to-day people watch, bullshit. Like the fact that Jumanji like made $1 billion. Jumanji 2 made $1 billion. Jumanji, the like spiritual successor featuring The Rock and Kevin Hart, that made $1 billion, which says everything. That tells me, and Jurassic World. So that just tells me, okay, nothing unique like makes money. So it's like, oh, here are these unique things. So I'll try to show people, here are unique things. But they won't, the ounce of weird, or with anime there's a lot of weird shit. But it's like, that stops other people. Whereas me, I just kind of white noise fan service. I white noise these other things, and sometimes it bothers me. But it's like, I can look past that because I'm into these interesting stories. Same thing with video games. People won't get into JRPGs. People won't get into strategy games. And it's just like, with me, it's like, how do you know unless you try it? Like, hold on, I have these like Arizona cans behind me that are just like making this like weird sound effect while I talk, like the echo is hitting them, and I know the microphone is picking that up. And I didn't want to throw them away because there's still a lot of drink left in there, but I'm gonna do it like safely. Okay, I feel better now. What was I even talking about? So yeah, so like, and for me, like when I like won't, like people be like, check this out, I usually get around to it. Like my personal problem is like, I'm just always doing something, and I usually just go where the wind takes me. So the fact that you even like talk to me about that thing is gonna like steer me that way. If you like obsess with me over it, I'm going to be, it's stronger and stronger. But it's like, I have my own personal things. It's like Rick and Morty was a show my brother like tried to get me into, but it was like, yeah, but it's like, I'm watching all these other things, and it's like, just watch an episode. He's like, I was like, yeah, but it's like, I don't know, and then it was like, I watched an episode, one of my favorite shows ever, immediately. I had to try it. Like, I had to try something new. Like, and my brother will argue, like, he's gotten me into all these things, like, but I'll make the argument, yeah, but the reason I haven't gotten you into things is because you don't, like, do the committed work. Like, I tried to get him into Mass Effect, and I told him, like, well, if you get to the end of the game, it's, like, the most amazing thing ever, but, you know, he won't put in that work. So, with a lot of people, it's, like, the frustrating thing about this is you're gonna be so excited because, like, let's say with Mass Effect, like, I'm so obsessed with Mass Effect, and like I love Mass Effect, but like, so I'm blind to the fact that like the first hour of Mass Effect is pretty boring to a normal person. Of Mass Effect 2, I should say, because that's the game I'm referencing. Like, to a normal person, it's just some sci-fi stuff, you know? It's like, oh, that's that character, okay, there's some ships, so, okay. But for me, it's like, okay, this is the opening to a saga. This is like, oh, we're meeting Miranda, we're meeting the elusive man, Shepard's ship explodes, okay. For them, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. So, like, when you introduce people into things, for one, like, now, even if I love something, I'm not going to try to get other people into it unless I know it's kind of like their thing, because, like, it's not worth it. And I've also noticed, like, the more, like, super enthusiastic I am, like, oh, you gotta watch this, like, the more turned off people are. You can't just, like, throw something in their face and say, do it, without them just being, like, kind of, like, standoffish about it. Like, nowadays, like, when I got my brother into Death Note, I was just kind of like, show's dope as fuck. You should watch it. He's like, yeah. And I was kind of like, it's like a really like psychological thing. That's, you know, one of my favorite shows. That seemed to work way better than if I was like, oh my god, you have to watch Death Note. Like, that's, no. People don't like it when you do that. I've come to realize. Because, like, with Mass Effect and all these other things, I was like, you gotta fucking play it. And that was just me. Because I didn't have anyone to talk to about Mass Effect for the longest time. And I still don't. To an extent. I have a couple people that I talk to loosely. But, like, that's the thing. We're, like, so desperate to talk about these things sometimes. It's like, I want you to be that person I talk to about. So, it's kind of... But you can't force these things. People gravitate... Their brains work differently. The way they gravitate to stories is differently. People's aesthetics. So, nowadays, I present it. If I like it, I, like, try to encourage it. If not, there's a million other things. And I like a lot of shit. So it's like, no matter who you are, I probably have like an idea at least of like something you'll like. But it's like, my girlfriend, for instance, she like, I was able, originally when we started dating, she's like, I don't really like movies. I just like war movies. I like superhero movies. And like one other thing. I forget whatever else. But now she likes movies. I just showed her good enough movies that it was her thing. Like, I showed her enough like comedies and horror movies. I was like, okay. I was like, well, she'd be like, well, I don't like these kinds of movies. And I'd be like, well, you like this. And she'd be like, yeah, I guess you're right. So, and then it's like, it was a slow process. So like, it's always possible you can get people into your favorite things. You gotta try it. And people who are like, oh, I'm not into such and such, it's like, you can't waste your like guys' time as a relationship, like working on just indoctrinating them in your thing. Like, so many people, I've learned, conversations are just people literally bouncing off whatever they want to talk about to the other person. Half of whatever you're talking about to that person is just whatever the fuck you want to talk about. And the girl, like, or whatever, the guy or whoever else, they're just going to talk to you about what they want to talk about. It's literally half of conversations are like battles of like whatever the fucking other person wants to talk about. Whatever is like important. So whenever you like feed like, do this, watch this thing, it's kind of just like they see that as like you almost rejecting whatever it is they want to do. Or whatever they want to talk about. So it's like if you're just the guy who likes Rick and Morty, you're just the guy who likes Rick and Morty and only talks about Rick and Morty and won't shut the fuck up about Rick and Morty. You won't shut the fuck up about Breaking Bad. You won't shut the fuck up about The Walking Dead. You won't shut the fuck up about Mass Effect, Christian. About Dragon Ball, Christian. About all these other things, Christian. But yeah. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this topic. I'm going to cut this episode off at that. Thank you for listening, as always, guys. You are the best. I'll see you in tomorrow's episode of Good Morning Soul. And until then, with that, I leave.